How do you start a nonprofit and scale it to have national impact? That's what we're going to talk about in this video, and we're going to do it by meeting a fellow nonprofit founder, CNN hero, Amy Weiss. Amy started Undies for Everyone 12 years ago and has since scaled her operation to help hundreds of thousands of kids across the country. So I went out to Houston, Texas to learn more about how she did it so I could bring this information back to you. This is going to be the first of what I hope will be many nonprofit founder profile videos. Maybe I don't know something about the journey of starting a nonprofit, but there's someone out there who has done it, and I'm gonna find those people and tell you their stories. And by doing that, we can gather all of these insights from experts around the country and make a bigger impact together. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, a nonprofit founder, former executive director, and social impact YouTuber here to help you with tips and strategies to make an impact. Check out the rest of my channel. I have hundreds of videos on nonprofit management, fundraising, social entrepreneurship, and more. And of course, subscribe to my newsletter. You can find the link right below this video. You don't want to miss it. I send out actionable tips and how-to guides and funding and other opportunities for you. So join below, and of course you can opt out anytime it's not bringing value to you. So let's go meet Amy and learn more about her organization Undies for Everyone and how she was able to scale it across the country. All right, Amy, tell me all about Undies for Everyone. What does your organization do? Who do you serve?
It's super simple. We serve kids who are being served by a variety of agencies. Every school district in the country has to have a homeless department by federal law. So we know we can go anywhere and call the homeless department. So we serve those kids, Child Protective Services, Boys and Girls Clubs, community closets, and in a few cities, pediatric mobile clinics. So here in Houston, we have Texas Children's Hospital. It's enormous. They have 4, maybe 5 trucks that are clinics, and they keep underwear on the truck. So does Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C., San Antonio, and a few other places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so the mission, like you said, is as simple as the name, Undies for Everyone.
Except the tagline is, but not really.
Okay. Not really. Tell me what you mean by that.
Because we only give underwear for kids. And,
right.
And only kids that fit in kids' underwear. 30 years ago, it would have been a different age group, right? Kids are bigger today. So we go over, it's approximately age 5 to 14 is about our guess. Through middle school for sure, because we want the girls who've got their periods, and if they're irregular, we want them to have underwear too. But if it's from 4T up to XXL in guys and 4T up to size 20 in girls, we don't.
But the spirit of the name, like, I get it.
Thank you. Yeah. That advertising should be paid off, right?
Yeah. We'll talk more about that in a minute. All right. How many years ago did you start Undies for Everyone?
I first blogged about it in 2008.
Okay.
And then I did annual drives until 2012 when I made it into a nonprofit.
Usually when someone starts something like this, there's a fire that's been lit in your heart. I mean, you saw something, some kind of need. Tell me a little bit more about the need you saw and your process understanding the need and coming up with this idea.
It's super simple. Someone told me. I mean, a social worker told me in the fourth quarter of 2008 that kids don't have the basics, that they get a lot of toys, but they don't get underwear and socks. So I blogged about it. I was blogging for the Houston Chronicle. That's our newspaper here. And people responded. They sent me some money and some underwear and socks. So I took it someplace, and then I just decided it would be, I would do drives every year, but in Q3 for back to school. That made more sense to me than underwear for the holidays. That underwear does not scream holidays to me. So that's how it started. it did not like, it's not about lighting a fire for me. It is about being open in the world to things that come your way and deciding in that moment in time in your life that you can do that. So for me, it was, oh, I think this is what I should be doing, and I have that space in my life, so this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So
maybe fire is a dramatic word.
yeah, it was just so dramatic. But yeah, there was an aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, because in my experience, at a different stage in every person's life, they realize something they can be doing to make the world a better place.
Correct.
I really appreciate that. Okay. And what you said about the social worker, I just want to hone in on that for a moment, because I would consider the social worker a credible authority in this topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you just read about it on the news. Like, you heard from a firsthand, someone, some experience close to the problem.
Right. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And yes, I totally knew that was a credible thing that must be true. I didn't know that there was this enormous gap in services all over, literally all over the country, that kids are not receiving underwear. That didn't come till about maybe a year or two later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just noted that it was a couple years in where you started to learn that this was a gap in services across the whole country. That amazes me, honestly. I just learned that just now as you told me. Tell me a little bit more about this idea of market research. You know, when someone is starting a nonprofit, we know that they need to understand the need a little bit from a credible source, like the social worker example. But tell me more about the thought process that goes into researching the community and the market when you're starting.
I guess one of the first things I wanted to say about that is so many people have such big hearts, and they want to, and they start a nonprofit because they see a need and they just start taking care of it, which is amazing and so nice of them. But where the problems come in is that they haven't put systems in place and they haven't done the research. And the research is just like a business. If you want to open a business, you look to see what the competition is doing, right? Are there too many businesses doing what you want to do? So it's going to be too hard to get a foothold in the market. So when you want to open a nonprofit, before you just start doing it, and you really should have, sorry.
That's all right. Little friend here.
You really, he's not what I call them. You really should have parameters. Then it is about looking at the competition and seeing what the need actually is. So what's being provided by other people, and in turn, is the need already being filled?
Right.
So you don't want to waste your time and money or anyone else's.
Right. What was your first program? How did it start?
I was just giving underwear away. So it was, who needs this? And what is the easiest way? What is the best stream of distribution for the underwear? So I would collect the underwear. My kids were young then. I have 2 boys. And we would separate it into boys and girls in our den, and then I would take it to Houston Independent School District. And every year it would grow a little more. The first year I just took a garbage bag. The second year, I think I needed them to give me a little cart to go out to my car and get it. And then I needed a bigger cart. And finally they sent a box truck to our house.
Still all this in your house, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
The guy from HISD who does the pickup every year is the same guy that picked up from my house the very first time he did that.
Wow.
12 years later. Anyway, and they were giving them to kids who needed them. And that was a partnership with the the school district strategic partnership. And then, so then that woman died. So sad. And I said, you know what? I want to start connecting with nurses, because when kids have accidents, they're made fun of unless they can go and get back to class. They go to the nurse, but a lot of times the nurse doesn't have underwear for them, right? And then they have to sit there. And then kids make fun of them because they know why, right? And very often the parents who are working hourly jobs, and it's not like you and I that we can just go pick up and go take an extra pair. So for a long time, it was about nurses, and every kid would get one pair. That was the first program. So in the first year, in 2012, I gave away 9,000 pair of underwear.
9,000?
9,000.
That's a pretty dang good start.
You know, they're packaged. Most underwear is packaged like in multiples, so, you know. And now you want to know how many we do today?
Yeah, so 12 years later,
we will give away 1.6 million pair of underwear to 228,000 kids.
Wow.
Across the country.
Across the country.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really...
I hope you're really proud.
I'm just excited that these kids are getting underwear. We're filling a need that nobody else is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just noted over 1 million pairs of underwear across the country, but you just started here in Houston. So at some point you knew it was time to grow. It's time to scale to other locations. Tell me more about your thought process, the indicators. What went through your mind when you realized we really should scale to other cities now?
So things happen, right? And it's about being adaptable. You know, during COVID, we decided pivot was a really good word.
Yep.
So I was doing this all myself until 2017. So from 2012 to 2017, I was doing it myself. And I connected with other nurses in the area because the district, the head of nursing in Houston, introduced me. Everyone wanted the underwear. So between January and August of 2017, I'd given out 200,000 pairs. And then Hurricane Harvey happened, and I don't know what you know about Hurricane Harvey being on the East Coast, but it was super bad. And a friend of mine and neighbor did a Facebook Live. Brene Brown? Do you know Brene?
I've heard of Brene. Yes. Are you saying Brene is your friend and neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
What? Wait a minute.
So she's
not a video.
She's not our neighbor anymore. I mean, we lost our house. So she took a nice picture of it, you know.
My gosh.
Yeah. So the day when it finally stopped raining, my husband and I, Kenny, we went over to our house, and Kenny and Steve, Brene's husband, they were at the house, and I was at Brene's house, and she said, oh, I want to do a Facebook Live. I'm going down to NRG, the stadium, not far from our houses. She's a social worker, and they needed social workers. So she went down there to help, and she said, let's do a Facebook Live. And she asked me for our donation link and the address.
Wow.
Where we would have the underwear sent. 1.5 million pair of underwear showed up at my husband's office. He is the nicest human being ever. We were also living there, so really, with a dog and 2 cats, so really, who would notice underwear anywhere?
Right.
So September 5th is when I hired people to start helping me. So that's when the director of finance came on, and someone to do the communications, to answer all the Facebook messages, the phone calls, everything else. And I hired a social media person, and she said, let's do an intake. I said, I don't want an intake. Here's what I want you to do. Every day, post how many we got in, how many we sent out, and where we sent it, because I want to establish ourselves as good stewards.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to do that. We were able to distribute the 1.5 million pair, and we got a lot of money, and so we bought more underwear, and in the first 6 months of 18, we distributed 500,000 more. So at that point, we said, let's go bigger and see what happens. But bigger just meant Dallas and Austin, I think. Or maybe saying one of the two, but Dallas for sure.
Right.
So
Statewide.
right.
Yeah.
So, and not big statewide, but just a couple of places. So we did that. And then a couple of years later, in February of 2020, I had always wanted to go to an off-price clothing show.
Mm.
And I finally talked Julie, our finance person, into doing it. And we went to Vegas 3 weeks before COVID, what shut down the whole country. And we met this guy who makes underwear, and he loved what we do. And he drop ships for us. So he has the underwear made in another country. He pays for the shipping to the United States. His people pack it, like you saw our underwear packed in the warehouse. And he ships it to our East Coast partners, which makes it possible for us to send underwear anywhere.
Wow. If you hadn't met that guy.
Right. If we hadn't met the guy, we would not be national. Unless we met some other guy.
Right. But see, what you said before really makes me think about this idea of staying open, right? I'm a firm believer that to some degree you can make your own luck. And you do that by staying open, right? You got to be looking for the opportunities and putting yourself out there to be potentially exposed to the opportunities. You went to that show.
I know not many people would do that. That is just not it's not where most people go. Let's go to that off-price show in Vegas.
Right. But to your point, when you do that, these things happen that can give you opportunities that you might not even thought of before.
That is correct.
Yeah, I love that. I love that part. So all this stuff is happening, and the demand is increasing. You're getting some good attention, some good support from people who like the impacts that you're making. As you're starting to expand, what were some of your first steps or things that you knew you had to put in place to scale manageably?
Well, the first question was, could we scale?
Right.
Right. And everything that we came up with when we thought about how we did things, we could not scale. We could not replicate in other places what we do here. So for a long time, we said we need X, Y, and Z to scale, and we do not have that. We cannot scale until we met that guy in Vegas. That sounds terrible.
It's okay.
And then it was an aha moment. It was like, oh, if you can drop ship for us, then we can do this. So that's how that happened.
Can you say a little bit more about, I mean, obviously you recognized logistics of the drop shipping was a thing that you needed. Was there anything else that you knew you didn't have and thus couldn't scale?
No.
Like people to receive it on the other side.
That was sort of the beauty. We said we were not hiring. We've said this from the beginning. We're not hiring people in other cities, and we're not getting bricks and mortar.
Okay.
In other cities. It's too much money. I don't want to be a landlord or taking care of offices and, all the HR stuff and people that you can't manage from a long distance. So we knew that we did not want that. So now I've forgotten your question and where we're going.
That's okay. I'm just thinking of others who might be thinking, I wonder if we could scale. So you recognize logistics was a barrier.
Right.
What else was a barrier that came into your mind, if anything, was just the dropship logistics?
So money, right? There's restricted funds and unrestricted funds. And did we have enough money for the shipping to be able to do that? So that was another concern. It did not concern us who was going to distribute it because we were when we expanded to Dallas and Austin to begin with, we were just giving to nurses.
Okay.
So we were giving to 1,900 school nurses in January of 2020. And it was hard because some of the nurses, like they didn't have room for the shipment, or they couldn't receive the shipment. And there were just lots of logistical issues with that. When we went national, we knew that we could call school district homeless departments. So it wasn't really a question of how we could get it out.
Okay, and you built up the knowledge of those contacts and some of those contacts.
Not when we met Mr. Vegas, we hadn't,
Right.
but literally 3 weeks later, you're going to love this story. 3 weeks later, everything closes. So we can now, so the nurses, the 1,900 nurses are not serving anyone, right? So we have nowhere to give our underwear. We have right? So the whole thing is going to shut down. And I listened to How I Built That by Guy Raz. And a few weeks after the pandemic started, they did Sweet Green, the salad restaurant. And it was started by 3 guys at college. And they interviewed them, this great, interesting interview, but it wasn't about COVID. So they sort of breathlessly came on afterwards and said, we went back and we talked to them because no one knew what was going to happen with restaurants or businesses. And Guy Raz said, and we asked them what now? And they all got together and they said, what would Sweet Green look like if we started it today? And I called Julie and I said, we have to meet. We met on her front porch. And I said, what would Undies look like if we started it today? And we decided that we didn't want kids to get 1 pair, that we wanted them to get a week's supply. And that we needed to get out large numbers, right? So instead of doing small things like nurses, right, 1,900 nurses, we knew if we went to Child Protective Services, well, who else serves kids in need? And we identified those people, those organizations, and that is how we decided that's our distribution system.
So I love this idea of what would it look like today if you're starting from scratch. So thinking back again, what were some of the lessons you learned about this idea of scaling and expanding to other cities that you really wish you'd known before you did it?
Yeah. It would have been great to know that funders, foundations in particular, family foundations, are not excited about funding someplace, about funding an organization that is not located in their city. In fact, a fair number of foundations, when you look at applications, say you must be located in our city.
Right.
Which I do not understand because COVID happened. Honestly, we're giving underwear to their kids. Why does it matter where my tushy is in my desk chair? Because we want to help the kids in their city. So it has been difficult to get restricted funds for each of the cities that we serve.
Interesting. On the flip side, were any new opportunities opened up by expanding or scaling?
Yes. Not the same foundations, but the same category. There were some people, honestly, not a lot. We don't have a lot of foundation support from other cities, but some super open-minded foundations thought that was great. Yeah.
And is most of your funding from foundations?
A lot of funding is from foundations.
For anyone who might be thinking that one day their nonprofits or their social impact efforts might expand, what's your final words of wisdom or advice or thoughts?
That's awesome. Concentrate where you are now. Concentrate on that, and the rest will come at a time when you are more prepared and you are in that space to think about it. Do the local thing the very best you can do. Get all of your systems in place, including finance, audit, 990s. Make sure that you're a platinum on Candid. Do all the things in the local community right, and you will move down the road and be surprised one day where you've come.
Get really good at what you do, and then the growth will happen.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do you think? Are you hoping that one day you will grow a nonprofit or social impact effort to have national impact? Share more about your dreams in the comments below. And what are some of your biggest questions that remain about how to expand your footprint in many regions? I hope you'll share those. Who knows, maybe even Amy will drop in the comments and share her responses. And of course, if you're thinking about or in the process of starting a nonprofit, don't forget to check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, for some online trainings and resources that will help you throughout that process. I also have my newsletter linked below with tips, strategies, and opportunities to help you make an impact. And of course, the group on Facebook, Change the World or Bust, where we have thousands of people from around the world making an impact. I hope you'll join us there. That's all I have for you today. Until next time, I'm Amber. See you later.